Dawn at Everest Base Camp on May 10, 2025, brought air so thin and frigid it stung with every inhale. Each breath was a small battle, a reminder that even surviving here was a triumph over nature's harshness. Splashes of color from tents sprawled across the rugged Khumbu Glacier, creating a delicate settlement nearly 18,000 feet above sea level. This patchwork of fabric and ambition clung to the ice, a symbol of human resolve against the mountain's indifference. Everest, Sagarmatha to the locals, towered overhead, silent and unyielding, its summit plume a stark white streak in the blue. The mountain stood watch, unmoved by the hopes gathered at its base. Weather forecasts promised perfect conditions, but the veteran Sherpas traded uneasy looks. On Everest they knew, calm could be deceptive, and their instincts often outweighed any prediction. In the pinnacle ascent mess tent, climbers double-checked every strap and knot, each adjustment a quiet plea for safety. Their gear was their lifeline, and these rituals helped steady nerves before the climb. The camp buzzed with laughter and restless energy, but beneath the surface, anxiety simmered. Jokes served as armor, and every smile was tinged with the tension of what was to come. The world was tuned in, live streams, social feeds, and satellite calls linked this isolated camp to millions. Every move was shared, every update followed by those far from the mountain's reach. Each climber was the center of a global story, watched by worried families and sponsors hungry for success. The drive to achieve was as real as the mountain itself, and every step carried the burden of expectation. The world was ready for tales of victory. No one wanted to dwell on what could go wrong. Success was easy to picture, but Everest always had its own plans. Outside, the glacier creaked and groaned, a stark reminder of the raw power and fleeting stability of this place. The shifting ice whispered warnings that many chose to ignore. Wrapped in down suits and fueled by dreams, the climbers focused on the summit. Their eyes were set upward, minds rehearsing every move for the journey ahead. They believed every risk was accounted for. Maps were pored over, checklists ticked, and safety gear arranged with care. Yet the mountain kept its secrets. Its silence was absolute, its intentions hidden from even the most experienced climbers. Everest's judgment is swift and final. Here, mistakes are rarely pardoned, and the price is always steep. The quiet was about to shatter, not by weather, but by human missteps and pride. Everest waited, timeless and unyielding, for the next act to begin. At the core of pinnacle ascent stood Liam O'Connell, a firefighter from Dublin seeking personal renewal. Years spent fighting fires had left him with wounds, some visible, others buried deep. And Everest became his ultimate test, a way to prove he could conquer even the greatest challenges. He kept a cherished photo of his family close, a constant reminder of what he risked and what he longed to return to. Every upward step was a silent vow, to them and to himself, that he would come back changed, but whole. For Liam, Everest was a personal crucible, evidence that an ordinary person could achieve the extraordinary, and that bravery often emerges from the most unexpected places. Maya Sharma, a tech innovator from Bangalore, climbed to inspire and to be seen. Her journey was shared live with millions, aiming to show young women in India that no peak was too high, and that their ambitions could soar as far as the Himalayas. For Maya, Everest was a stage, a symbol of empowerment for Indian women, a shining example of hope and possibility from the planet's highest point. Ben Carter, the seasoned British guide, was making his final ascent, determined to see everyone safely up and down. A lifetime of mountaineering weighed on him, and this last climb was his way of saying goodbye to the mountain that had shaped his destiny. The demands of leading a commercial expedition pressed on him. His reputation, his business, and the lives of his clients all hung in the balance. Each choice he made could tip the scales between victory and disaster. Tenzing Sherpa, their trusted guide, climbed not for fame, but for his family's well-being. Every journey up the mountain was a sacrifice, a means to support those waiting for him in the valleys below. For Tenzing, Everest was a livelihood, a perilous route to a better life, where every step was weighed between danger and reward. He read the mountain's moods like no other, bearing the responsibility for his client's safety and the hopes of his own family with every measured move. Each climber's motivation was unique: redemption, recognition, duty, survival. Their reasons were as diverse as the routes they chose to the top, yet all were united by the same thin air and the same daunting objective, drawn together by the challenge and the hope of reaching the summit. On Everest, dreams are shaped and sometimes shattered in the breathless space where hope and hardship collide beneath the shadow of the world's tallest mountain. What is it about Everest that draws so many to its heights? For countless adventurers, it represents the ultimate conquest, a chance to rise above the ordinary and touch the sky. Here, the mountain becomes an arena, pitting human determination against unforgiving stone and ice. Everest is more than a peak, it's an icon, a badge of honor that attracts not only seasoned mountaineers but anyone driven by ambition and resources. But the idea of easy access is deceptive. The mountain demands both skill and humility. For many, the ascent is a search for purpose, a tale to share, a moment that shapes a lifetime. The Himalayas stand as nature's grand cathedral, with Everest as its tallest altar. The scenery is breathtaking, the allure undeniable, and the peril always close at hand. This contradiction, stunning beauty paired with grave danger, is the essence of mountaineering. Everest stands as a vast stage for both dreams and fears. The urge to witness its majesty, to become part of its legend, drives people to leave safety behind and risk it all. In those fleeting moments amid the mountain's awe and terror, they pursue something timeless. Beyond 8,000 meters, climbers enter the death zone, a realm where human life cannot last. Oxygen is desperately limited. Every second counts in a battle for survival. The weather shifts without warning. Clear skies can become a whiteout in moments, temperatures nosedive, and frostbite lurks at every turn. The path is perilous. The Khumbu icefall, the Lhotse face, the Hillary step, each one a deadly challenge. Crowds create dangerous delays, forcing climbers to waste vital oxygen while they wait. Gear can malfunction, regulators freeze, tanks run dry, masks become clogged with ice. When the oxygen supply is gone, both strength and clear thinking disappear. Disorientation and fatigue take over. A minor slip can turn deadly. Up here, a simple equipment failure can instantly become a fight for life. Everest shows no mercy. Survival relies on experience, fortune, and a deep respect for its might. In this place, even a tiny error can spell disaster for the whole team. The final ascent began beneath a blanket of stars, with groups departing Camp 4 just before midnight. Their headlamps traced a luminous path up the shadowy mountainside, each breath growing more precious as they climbed into the thin, frigid air. The serene weather gave climbers a deceptive sense of safety. Everest appeared tranquil, almost inviting as the first light of dawn gently colored the snow. But as they pressed on, a fierce wind began to howl, much stronger and colder than anyone had expected. The calm vanished, replaced by swirling snow and biting gusts that turned every step into a struggle. At the balcony, a climber from another group collapsed, creating a traffic jam. The narrow ridge became congested and precious time slipped away as teams waited in the freezing wind. Maya Sharma's oxygen regulator iced over. Tenzing Sherpa struggled to repair it, his gloved fingers clumsy against the frozen metal. The setback drained the team's energy and cost them critical minutes. Ben Carter faced a dilemma: retreat or continue upward. The dangers were mounting, but the summit was tantalizingly close, the dream almost within reach. The summit loomed ahead, the pressure overwhelming. Ben pressed on, fueled by determination and the hope that the weather would hold just a bit longer. They arrived at the summit ridge late, elation quickly giving way to fear as the wind intensified into a gale. The view was stunning, but the peril was now unmistakable. The brief window of good weather slammed shut. In moments, the sky darkened and visibility plummeted, trapping climbers high above the world. On the way down, Liam O'Connell slowed dramatically, suffering from exhaustion and swelling in his brain. Each step became a monumental effort as the altitude took its toll. Refusing to abandon a fallen climber, he used his last reserves of strength to help, even as his own condition deteriorated. The descent descended into chaos as the storm struck. Visibility vanished, radios went silent, and climbers became scattered, each fighting for their life. Ben Carter, attempting to organize a rescue, became separated from his team, lost in the blinding snow and roaring wind. Maya, drained but now breathing from a new oxygen supply, struggled downward with Tenzing. Every step was agony, but turning back was unthinkable. Years of preparation dissolved into a frantic battle for survival. Everest showed no compassion, and every choice now meant the difference between life and death. The catastrophe wasn't a single misstep but a chain of small, connected errors. Everest's verdict was absolute, and the price was paid in bravery, sacrifice, and loss. Only after the chaos subsided did the full extent of the disaster come into focus. Liam O'Connell and the climber he tried to rescue were never seen again. Ben Carter made it back alive, but suffered devastating frostbite and emotional scars that would linger. Maya Sharma was airlifted out, her story of victory now replaced by a heavy silence and overwhelming remorse. Tenzing Sherpa led his client to safety, but the weight of loss became another burden to carry on future ascents. Liam's loved ones grieved in the spotlight, their sorrow broadcast to the world. Everest didn't just take lives, it tore families apart and left behind haunting, unanswered questions. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the climbing community, reopening old wounds and fueling new debates. The mountain's shadow reaches far, a stark reminder of its unforgiving nature and the steep price it demands. On Everest, both ambitions and lives hang by a thread. The catastrophe on Everest ignited a worldwide conversation. Legendary climbers like Reinhold Messner criticized Everest's commercialization, arguing that the mountain was now crowded with novices and that the relentless drive for summits had gone too far. Some blamed Ben Carter for pressing forward, while others argued that in the death zone, every choice is a gamble. Was it a failure of leadership or a flawed system? Analysts described how extreme cold, lack of oxygen, and gear malfunctions combined into a deadly mix. Liam's brave actions, though heroic, were likely impaired by altitude sickness. Nepalese authorities vowed to investigate, but doubts lingered. Overcrowding and weak regulations continued. Demands increased for tougher permit rules and fewer climbers on the mountain. The events of May 12 became a symbol for change. Should Everest remain an untamed wilderness, or be managed as a controlled destination? The very spirit of the mountain hung in the balance. The events of May 12 served as a stark reminder. Reaching the top is only half the journey. Ambition and bottlenecks transformed a calculated risk into a deadly crisis. Strict turnaround times must be enforced, not treated as flexible guidelines. The disaster revealed the perilous relationship between clients, guides, and the pressures of commercial expeditions. Guides need the authority to prioritize safety, and climbers must put survival above personal achievement. Technology can assist, but depending on it too much is risky. Maya's failed regulator changed everything. More training in gear failure and essential mountaineering skills is crucial for all climbers. Everest requires respect and humility, never overconfidence. The mountain is quiet once more, but the hard questions linger. Honoring those lost means truly learning from their fate and facing Everest with the reverence it deserves.